Welcome to another edition of Stress Less, Live More, powered by Zembrin. Welcome to our fourth episode, and in this episode, we will be discussing the intersection of nature and innovation, where those two meet, courtesy of Zembrin, and how, most importantly, it can impact and enhance your life. This series is powered by Zembrin, and I'm speaking to Managing Director of HG&H Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Ralph Tettey-Amlalo. How are you, Dr. Ralph?
I'm good. Good to see you again, Sia.
Good
How are you
to
doing?
see you as we continue this journey of stressing less and living more. And I am really fascinated by the approach that HG&H Pharmaceuticals and subsequently Zembrin have when it comes to taking this great legacy and history of your research that goes into Zembrin, and how you also are very future and forward thinking by combining that with innovation. So there's a lot to touch upon here. There've past episodes where we've covered a lot already. So I do implore you, if you haven't caught up on those episodes, certainly do that. And the beauty of having the content out there, always evergreen and always happy and ready for you to actually consume it. And actually, Dr. Ralph, wouldn't you say this is becoming a great resource, not just for an individual to listen to or watch, but share it with your friend, share it with your children, share it with your colleagues at work, so that we can all stress less and live more, right?
Very true, Sia. And I must admit, I think that's something we haven't done much of, and that's why we're here today, through working with Podcast Party to try and get Zembrin out there. The benefit with Zembrin is that anyone who actually tries it will feel it. Zembrin is experiential. It's one of those things where you feel it almost immediately. You just stay calm and focused, and you just get through the day. Like what I said in one of the previous episodes, Zembrin puts your world in slow motion so that you can just power it through. By the time the rest of the world is awake, you're gone.
And that philosophy, that idea is not just for one kind of person. Whether you're young or old, whether you are working or not, whether you're still in school, you can all benefit from stressing less and living more. I want to touch on that a little later in the episode. But for now, as we talk about nature meeting innovation, I want to talk about the phrase I will at least be using 3 more times this week, just to sound absolutely fancy. Scaletium tutorsum, right? How does HG&H Pharmaceuticals approach to sustainability and also environmental responsibility actually impact the way Scaletium tutorsum is sourced and cultivated? Let's start off with that.
All right, good. So from a sustainable perspective, Scaletium tutorsum is actually a plant that is protected by the Biodiversity Act. Over 300 years ago, when the members of the San people, or the Khoisan people, were growing it, they used to grow it in the wild. It's obviously attracted a lot of attention over the years, and those who know members of the general public have been trying to harvest this plant just from the wild. The problem with doing that is that you would naturally deplete, the original versions and cultivars of the plant over time, if you're not replacing it back. So what HG&H, what we did was to be able to study the plant. We grew a sufficient amount of bulk seed stock, right? And we don't, and obviously, according to the Act, we don't harvest from the wild. So it took us a long time to do this. It took us well over 5 to 6 years to be able to come up with a sustainable cultivation pattern, understanding, the environmental factors that affect the plant, trying to control what we can control, and making sure that we grow each harvest reproducibly with a set of protocols, so that we ensure that our alkaloids that are present in the plant always are achieved with the right ratio and the right amounts.
So there's, as I alluded to a little earlier, there's a lot of great traditional knowledge at play in the work that you're doing in actually creating Zembrin. So what role does that traditional knowledge actually play in the development of Zembrin?
Very vital. So when my predecessor, Dr. Nigel Kereke, was actually understanding the plant with the people in the local environment, you have to study how the people harvest and process the plant. And we've taken that study and used it in the technology. So one of the things that was typically done in the past was the development of tinctures, right? So they would harvest the plant, and in those days they would harvest the plant and put it in the sun to dry, which creates a bit of a fermentation process, right? And there has been studies to see whether there's a change of an effect, whether you chew it raw or chew it once it's been fermented. Then they also had the principle of using it in alcoholic tinctures to extract the alkaloids out of the plant into the alcoholic tinctures, and then they would sip on the alcoholic tinctures. So that used to happen many years ago. So what we have done in present day extraction procedure is that our extraction solvent is also alcoholic, because we want to try and mimic, as far as possible, how the extraction was done over 200 years ago in today's arena, so that we do not alter the chemistry of the alkaloids. Changing the process also changes, the expression of the alkaloids in the extract. So it's also important. That's why I've been highlighting that not all Sclerotium totosum is the same. Even if you have another manufacturer that produces an extract, how the extract was made, also plays a big role to activity of the alkaloids in the extract.
And you have a lot in these conversations really reference the traditional knowledge owners that the company has learned from. And I want to shine a spotlight on that partnership once again. How do you, as HG&H Pharmaceuticals, ensure fair compensation? That's a big, big thing. And also benefit sharing between yourselves and traditional knowledge owners.
I'll touch on that here. You've actually said something that I think I haven't expressed so far. So part of the traditional understanding with the San people was that in the olden days, the plant was chewed. What in present day, and I know we'll touch on some of the products later, is that there's now a trend of some clients manufacturing products where they are chewed. To connect the dots again, to try and bring it back to how it was used, back in the day. So that's why we've seen things like, there's a client who's working on a gummy, there's a client who's working on chewing gum, and there's a client that's working on a soft chew. But back to your question, yes. So what we did is the knowledge was obtained from the traditional people. We're not a company that is seen to be exploiting indigenous South Africans and for commercial gain. That's not our thing. So what we did that through the partnership with the South African San Council, an organization that we're very proud of, and we successfully negotiated what we call a benefit sharing agreement. It was quite a tough one because we were the first.
I'm sure
there was no other company at the time that could bring together various stakeholders, and the Sun Council was represented by an advocate lawyer, Mr. Roger Channels, who lives in the Western Cape, very great guy, and we were successfully able to execute the agreement where we actually do pay royalties back. So for every kilogram, for us as a company, for every kilogram of Zembrin that we sell, that's a royalty payment that gets paid back through the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to the San Council, which ends up for two communities, and they are Polshoek and Nurvier in the Northern Cape as well.
I'm doing every bit of my hardest to avoid singing "It's the Circle of Life" because I feel like it's so true. It is the circle of life.
So for every consumer out there who purchases a product, Sclerotium totosum product powered by Zembrin, should know that they're actually touching the lives of millions of South Africans, in the Northern Cape, and you're providing various benefits like bursaries to education, provision of water, taking care of the elderly, because of the harsh conditions in which they see themselves in.
Dr. Rolf, let's talk about the innovative technologies and the methods that are being used currently by Zembrin in order to actually improve the efficacy, improving the quality, and also improving the sustainability of scaletium cultivation and processing. What are some of those that are being used right now?
It's a very good question. The question is, how far do you want to deviate from what was done 300 years ago? We try not to overdo it. We want to be able to try and link what we do today to what was done in the past. The only benefit with technology is that it helps us just monitor and track the alkaloid content and that's the key thing, because you can grow two scaletium plants side by side. They will express different alkaloids if they're not grown under the same conditions.
Okay.
Right? So it's important for us to make sure that whatever harvest that we grow year on year, they meet the right quality standards. The technology that we deploy today are possibly in the extraction technology space to just make sure that we get maximum yield of these alkaloids, and also the analytical testing space to just also make sure that we could measure to the right amount how much of these alkaloids are present. There are other technologies that we've been presented with, like grafting, which is a methodology used in cultivation. We generally haven't taken a keen interest in going down that road, because that's not how the plants were grown in the past. So the key thing is that we just need to make sure that we have a sufficient amount of our proprietary seed stock, and that's what we use to just make sure that we grow it sustainably, and make sure that the alkaloid contents are
amazing
as what it should be.
And this is what I am getting from a lot of what you are explaining to me, that I know for Zembrin and also HG&H Pharmaceuticals, this partnership that you have with traditional knowledge owners isn't just a tick box exercise because you have to. Yeah. I am certain there's great value and benefits that you are getting in terms of sustainability and the social responsibility impact. Can you talk to us a little more about that? Because I'm sure at the end of the day, it also boils down to quality and the efficacy of Zembrin as well.
Yes, very good point. So when we market Zembrin, we have a wide range of clientele base. Some of them are obviously quite focused on the science. Some of them are focused on quality, etc. But there's also a great client base that is focused on sustainability and making sure that what we do, we're not taking undue advantage of the traditional knowledge holders.
Yeah.
So we have a proactive approach when we engage with the Sun Council. We meet them at least 2 to 3 times. We invite them to conferences. We actually make them part of our marketing and promotional activities, and we have a very strong relationship with them as well.
Right.
Even very recently, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment invited HG&H into a conference in China.
Oh, wow.
Where one of our colleagues actually protected and spoke about Zembrin and how, our relationship with the Sun Council, what it is that we've done, the quality aspects of it, the sustainability aspect of it, and the markers that we sell in.
Because you really have the blueprint.
Yes. And I know that
I'll say it for you so that you remain humble. I'll say it. You have the blueprint, of course.
It's come with years and years of investment. I must also acknowledge Halls and Halls Investments and the bigger Halls family for trusting into this technology and this product and keeping it alive. We're a company that's almost going to celebrate 20 years in about 3 years' time.
Amazing.
So it's a long journey.
Yeah.
We focus a lot initially on the right things, the relationships with the Sun Council and the people, the science, the regulatory bodies, and obviously trying to get it to market. And it's time that we now start spreading the word of Zembrin.
Yes.
Yeah, everywhere else, including our beloved South Africa as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier that Zembrin is experiential and it plugs into your different kinds of lives and different kinds of lifestyle. I want to look at some more products.
Okay.
As we covered in our previous episode. You have a few more with us today. There's such a wide variety here. Where do we even begin? Maybe let's start with some products that are available locally.
Okay.
What do you have for us today?
So we have a brand called Serenity. This is a recent brand that was launched by a company called Grace Pharmaceuticals, and they're based in Durban. And they also introduced a line extension called Liquid Focus, which is great. I mean, I love this. This is if you're feeling a little bit down and low,
Yes.
and you need a little bit of a boost, you take Liquid Focus. It's a single shot formulation. It also comes very well formulated with some vitamin Bs to give it an extra boost.
Always good.
And that's good. And I just also feel it's unfortunate I do not have samples of Aleve 8 by Brunel Laboratorium based in Pretoria. They were one of our first, in fact, the first clients that we have. And their product is also available locally as well.
Right. So I also have some Calm and Focus here.
yeah.
Can you talk a little more about this?
Oh, it's a great product by Now Foods. They're based in Chicago, in the USA. And what I love about them is that Zembrin is the hero ingredient in that formula, but that product was also formulated with GABA, which also acts as a neurotransporter to also, once again, just enhance the mood of the calming and focus benefits of the products. Quick acting and experiential.
Yes. Oh my goodness. For mental relaxation, you are preaching to me here in the best way possible. Let's cover some practical questions or considerations people might have. The wide variety of products that incorporate Zembrin say it is good for people in different stages of life.
100%.
So, for example, for parents out there who might be a little concerned, is it good for kids, for example?
It is good for kids from an anecdotal evidence. Anecdotally, we have evidence to support that the Sound Council were given, well, at the time, not Zembrin, but chewing the plant, to infants to help manage colic and also teething pain. We have recent anecdotal evidence in Cape Town where a gynecologist was also giving it to pregnant women to help them manage anxiety, as they were approaching, preterm labor. So from those perspectives, and also added to that, our safety and toxicology studies, which is also what we have to do to demonstrate safety, shows that even the amounts of Zembrin, and that's also another thing I haven't mentioned, we only have 25 milligrams of Zembrin in any product here.
And why is that?
It's a very low dose. So Zembrin is potent, so you don't even need much to be able to experience the effect. From a safety and toxicology perspective, we could actually potentially go as high as 600 milligrams. So if you look at 25 milligrams, we're barely scratching the surface here.
But it's already so effective.
Very effective. Very effective. You feel it, like I said earlier, within 0 to 2 hours, but definitely within 30 minutes, you feel the effects. So there's no need for us to add more if it's not necessary.
Yeah.
So from a safety perspective, it is safe. Children, medically, so, a medical child starts below the age of 12. So when you're 12 and above, you're typically seen as an adult from a medical perspective because your body, metabolizes products like an adult individual.
Jeez, Dr. Ralph, what does this mean? I'm like 3 times a child. I'm 3 times an adult in medical terms. I'm trying to do maths.
So I think all I'm trying to say is that from a safe zone in today's world with all these regulations around, a child from the ages of 12 and above is a safe zone, And what we do have examples. I mean, that's where children go through periods of puberty. Changes in their body, that also creates teenage years, some levels of stress and anxiety for both the child and the parent. We also experience, and I know this may be true for younger children, but there are also instances where ADHD is also, and that's when the child is hypersensitive or hyperactive, and Zembrin could play a role to keep the child calm and focused, particularly useful in preparation for exams.
Big thing, big thing in someone's life. I want to also just zone in on people who are already leading an active and healthy lifestyle and how Zembrin can incorporate into their lives and enhance their lives. Someone, for example, who plays actively in sports, as a hobby or attends gym regularly, how can Zembrin play a part in just something like gym anxiety? That's a real thing.
That's a real thing. And I think here you will notice that with first timers. So typically your average John Doe who is an active sports enthusiast, because of the endorphins that are created when you exercise, you probably have a higher threshold in managing stress and anxiety, right? But for your beginner, somebody who's probably, and especially you see this at the beginning of the year with New Year resolutions, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
somebody was just trying to say, look, this is the year that we get this done.
Dr. Ralph, I don't like this example anymore. It's a little too personal.
and he or she sort of signs up a gym membership and wants to sort of start, like, this is the year we get it cracking. But, you walk into the gym, if it's not your space, you see all these gym enthusiasts, very well carved, male and female. For some people, it's a daunting experience. They either recluse, or they look at the machines and they just don't know what to do with it, or they listen to music all day and just walk out. What Zembrin does is that it keeps them calm so that they don't experience those gym anxieties, and gives them the ability to focus on their workout and gets them through their work anxiety as well.
Goodness, I'm really, really loving the fact that you are reassuring us for whatever phase or stage of life we're in. So how can consumers actually support sustainable and support responsible practices in the botanical industry? We've been talking a lot about nature meeting innovation. And what role can Zembrin play in promoting that positive change?
Good. So where consumers can support is to make sure that when they find themselves in the need to purchase supplements, they do so with companies like HG&H Pharmaceuticals, and ingredients like Zembrin that have an active responsibility to where these ingredients and the traditional knowledge was sourced from. When you purchase a product containing Zembrin, you are supporting where the original knowledge was gained from these communities, and that's how consumers can benefit. There are other competitors on the market who don't do this. They've taken advantage of our science and our knowledge that we've cultivated over the years, and obviously trying to gain commercial benefit for it, right? But they're not paying royalties. They're not giving back to the society, and the department is actively searching. In fact, the department is revising their regulation to go after such competitors on the market. So consumers should be able to make sure that when they're purchasing supplements, they do so. They need to ask, was this responsibly sourced? And especially if it's in South Africa, or even if anywhere else in the world as well.
Yeah.
They need to do, and that's how they can support it. What we can do is to just make sure we keep our end of the bargain, making sure that we grow and further strengthen our relationship with the San Council, and also the co-SAN people as well, and also maintain our relationship with the department and be open and transparent, in what we do, and involve them in our collaboration as well.
Well, you continue doing that, and I say very earnestly, you continue doing that so well. So thank you to you and your team for the incredible work that you do in making sure and encouraging we all stress less and live more.
Yeah.
In closing, what would you say to someone who's watching this, who's listening to this, something that they can start to think about and do today in order to stress less and live more?
Yeah. They should just take Zembrin.
Yes.
Zembrin is a great ingredient. It's a clinically proven ingredient. It's an ingredient that has been sourced from our own beautiful continent, beautiful country, South Africa. We pay back royalties to the local people where the traditional knowledge was sourced from. It's experiential. You will feel it. Stress is an everyday aspect of our lives. There's no moment that you will go through life without experiencing some level of anxiety. You're fatigued, you're tired, you've got a deadline, you've got exams to study, you've got aging parents, your libido is down, you want to go to the gym, you want to exercise. These are all various factors that impacts all of us on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Zembrin provides that opportunity to be able to help us manage it and get through our day.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Ralph, thank you once again for sharing and enhancing our lives so much with all that you've been able to discuss with us in this episode and also our previous episodes. On that note, the conversation certainly continues. I do implore you to catch up on all of our previous episodes if you hadn't listened or watched them yet, and do the right thing. tell a friend, share it with a friend, send that link on WhatsApp, and keep that conversation going in our Stress Less, Live More series powered by Zembrin. For more information, please do visit the website www.zembrin.com, and also give us a shout on social media. Let us know what other topics you'd like to like for us to cover on the series, what questions you'd like to have answered as well as we continue this series to hopefully be able to give you some more insight, some great education, some great enhancement in your life and in the effort to stress less and live more.